Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're here once again with the Vampire Coast. I know, but I've been having some fun with Lore of Deeps, so give me a little slack here, guys. We've got double Gunny here. Gunny is honestly one of my favorite characters in the game, probably in my top 5, honestly, because of the sole fact that he is the best zombie in the game. He is like a hero zombie. I mean, most other zombies, the most other elite zombie in the game that I can think of would be maybe like the Black Spot, but I mean, Gunny here, he's risen to a high station for a frickin' zombie. And we've got two of them here to help support each other with ammo and to give ammo to, whoever else needs it. For the rest of the army, got a nice mix of deckhands, polearms, got a couple of Mournguls as well, cannon here, carronade, a couple fellbats, a Black Spot, and another handgunner. For my Empire opponent, he does not have a caster, so I know. Come on, guys. Give me a little slack here. Again, I'm trying to prepare for being out of town, so some of these replays probably wouldn't have made it through anyway. But just as a quick note here, my Vampire Fleet Admiral has already lost more than half HP from those Empire cannons, of which there are 3. Karl Franz up in the air, a front line of lots of flagellants, including the Sigmar's Sons in the center. I've also got a couple units of Spearmen as well. So yeah, Fran's going to come over here and try and finish off the bats, and I'm not exactly sure what he's thinking here. I guess he's just really wanting to secure his backline. Looks like a couple of Knights, Knights of the Blazing Sun and Demigryph Knights with halberds hidden there in the woods. But this is no doubt a huge mistake, mostly because Franz is going to leave himself in range of Gunny, other Gunny, the Admiral, and of course the carronades out in the distance there. So this is going to lead to his ultimate demise here, unless he can pull away from the situation. I mean, he's obviously doing a lot of damage to those bats, but that's not really helping his case a whole lot. Meanwhile, the rest of the zombies just slowly shambling their way towards the Empire artillery position. I don't really care if he sends those Knights of the Blazing Sun way out in the boonies to take care of the carronade. It's honestly not a huge issue for me. At this point, we've been able to do some really good damage to Karl, basically for free, and since he doesn't have a way of healing any of that damage back, it is very effective. Mournguls charging in here are a little bit over-aggressive. They are going to get singled out by the silver bullets here, start to take quite a bit of damage. Charging into flagellants is also not the best, because flagellants have relatively high DPS, and, Mournguls don't have the best defensive stats in the world, so yeah, that's honestly not the best engagement for me, but that's going to be okay. Demigryph Knights with halberds charge in the other unit of Mournguls and then immediately pull away into the front line. But yeah, Franz tried to go back to finish off that carronade, but just got absolutely gunned down in the crossfire by multiple different units. Somehow the balance of power is still even, though, despite the loss of Karl Franz. Not really sure what that's about. I guess because I just sacrificed a Mourngul for free, basically. And also I've taken significant damage on the Black Spot and some of these other units here. Zombies obviously going to get cut to ribbons by flagellants. That being said, because there are enough zombies on the field, they should be able to sort of slowly grind the flagellants down over time. And yeah, you can see here, these flagellants, despite the fact they are winning, they've got, well, they're sort of winning. Got quite a few kills so far. They're just getting outnumbered. I'm going to throw a Vangeist Revenge here. Was trying to clip this artillery crew and go through these artillery crews here as well, but it wasn't quite correctly aimed. It should have been slightly more to the side. Actually would have been absolutely devastating. Cleaned up 2 units of Spearmen, probably all of the artillery crew of the Hammer of Witches as well, but as it wasn't the most impactful Vangeist Revenge I've ever done, which is okay. Knights of the Blazing Sun and Demigryph Knights cleaning up various units here. They're going to charge around this flank. We did manage to clean up the Knights of the Blazing Sun with some zombie polearms, which is great. Demigryph Knights are still online, though. We're going to drop a Fog of the Damned in here to just debuff the attack stats of these flagellants so that they cannot not quite fight as effectively. Super cool animation for the Fog of the Damned, by the way. Empire Artillery still online in the back. You can see Gunnies starting to take their pot shots, though. They do have a really nice long range. And their guns, it looks like, actually will blow up the individual artillery pieces, already having taken down 2 of the 3 cannons from this unit. So, interesting to note, our Gunnies might be a good option to counterfire, even in the Skaven matchup, potentially. I haven't tried it, but if they're accurate enough and they do enough damage, they could potentially pick off artillery pieces very, very quickly. Might be worth trying out sometime, but as it is right now, Gunny's just going to sit up on the hill. The cannons are starting to return a little bit of fire, which is not the best, so we're actually going to move them forward. They can fire while moving, even though they can't, I believe so. Well, I guess we'll see in just a minute here. The Admiral in the meanwhile is just sort of hanging back here. I don't want her to get taken out prematurely. At this point, we've pretty much got this battle on lock. It's going to take a little bit of time to shut everything down, but Pounce power is well in my favor, and I think that, yeah, there's not really a lot the Empire can do to try and come back from this. Demigryph Knights with halberds in the backline, cycle charging between these two different gun units. I mean, I've still got the Carronade in the backline that could potentially shoot at them. Not actually shooting anything right now, but the Black Spot with their bayonets, they'll be just fine. You can see how they actually can shoot while moving. I just saw a couple shots pop off there, even though it doesn't say so in the tooltip. The gunnies meandering their way forward. Narrow miss by that cannon there. Nice. Ooh, that was a hit. But, yeah, just popping shots into these cannons. They're going to be moving forward. At this point, my opponent does admit defeat. Since, yeah, that battle was over a long time ago. Honestly, Bounce Power probably held together a little bit longer than it should have, but probably because there's a lot of unbreakable units still left. The cannons were still online, technically, although they were about to be shut down. But, yeah, fun build. For my opponent, obviously, would have liked to have had a caster, even just cutting, like, one of these flagellants to take, like, a light caster on foot with just, like, nets only and maybe, I don't know, Foz protection. Would be probably about the same price as a flagellant, and I mean, just having the net alone, if you could net something down and then just pound it with these 3 great cannons, that would make this build really scary, potentially for the Vampire Coast. Not the biggest fan of France up in the air either. Just bringing big monsters against the coast is always going to be risky, so I would much rather have seen him on horseback, or even better, somebody like Boris on horseback, who has a shield, nice and tanky, has self-regeneration, so you don't necessarily have to worry about healing him. That way you could take a different lore of magic, like I said, light magic being a very potentially good option here. As for the rest of the build, I mean, I think it's decent. I've already sort of talked about flagellants a little bit before in a previous video, but I'm not the biggest fan. I honestly think this is a little bit overkill. Like, you cut 1 for a caster, I'd probably cut another 2 and just have the Sigmar Sons plus 1 flagellant, and then go a little bit wider on more state troops. State troop swordsmen will trade against zombies just fine, and although they aren't necessarily as good against Morghuls, I guess that is one nice niche about the flagellants here, so maybe I'm wrong about this, and correct me, although I do play a lot of Empire. But, I mean, obviously the DPS here is pretty good. I mean, honestly, though, Empire State Troop Swordsmen have comparable DPS. It's a little bit lower total weapon strength, and obviously they don't have Frenzy. But, you know, if you're buffing them up somehow, they'll do just fine against zombies. Even against Morghuls, they'll do okay. And, like, with a wide build like that, especially with how boneheaded I played with my Morghuls, you'd still be able to take them out anyway. So just going a little bit wider, I think, with more State Troops rather than the Flagellants. And then, obviously, taking a caster. As I said, Light Wizard, Exorcism, because crumbling is not really a thing, I think the Exorcism is basically the worst lore attribute in the game. So basically always cut it, even against undead factions. But then, yeah, I would take Net of Amantok and Foz Protection. You could maybe have some fun if you had the funds and take Banishment as well. Vampire Coast, because they're pretty slow, if you can get a nice banishment in a big zombie blob, there's nothing they can do about it, and you will rack up a hilarious number of kills. I would also cut Carl down. Archlector is not a bad idea here, although he's a little bit squishy. Boris on horseback is a reasonably tanky option. He also has some nice leadership effects to help debuff zombies and other units which are crumbling. You know, help debuff their melee attack and so forth, so yeah. And then from there, that triple cannon, honestly, not a bad idea at all. The silver bullets, I like the stock and the, you know, armor-piercing missiles there. And then, yeah, we will take the Sigmar Sons plus 1 unit of Flagellants. The rest is just going to be Swordsmen for the infantry composition, and we'll take some Spearmen as well. From here, you can see we do have quite a bit of funds open still. A solo unit of Demigryph Knights with Halberds is probably not a bad idea necessarily. But a lot of the large units, with a few notable exceptions, aren't super heavily armored, and since we have like the silver bullets, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I might just, you guys know me, tank up on Pistoliers, and then, you know, maybe try and find the funds somewhere in here. I might cut one of these 2 items. That -9 melee attack, -9 speed one, although Crush the Weak, because it's more situational, I might actually cut that. That would give me the funds to maybe take like an Empire Knight here. I don't know. Filling out a full stack against the Vampire Coast is usually the way to go from my view, so just sort of fine-tuning that. I mean, obviously you don't have necessarily as much sort of hard-hitting power, but again, the Griffin's a huge risk anyway, and I just think that you need to go wide here and try and bring as many bodies as you can, because pound for pound, your guys just have better combat stats than the Vampire Coast, so something like this I think could be pretty effective. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, though. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.